Good morning. In today's video, I want to show you how to use your API keys in StoriBot. So in the last video, we showed you how to add a API key. So if you come over here to integrations, you'll see all of the API keys in this instance. So in this case, we have a weather API key, one for X, and Alpha Vantage for financial data. Any of the API keys that are added here will be injected every time you create a new story. If you come in here and create new story, previously you had to upload data or attach a Google Sheet. You can still upload data and add a Google Sheet, but now in addition, you can inject the API keys securely into your Stori runtime environment. So here you can see what keys will be injected. Click Create with Integrations. And this will create a StoriBot environment just like it normally would, but without the data files that you previously had to upload. So we'll just give that a moment to initialize the workspace and spin up the environment. And we will check out what we can do with it once that is created. Okay, so it's just finishing the environment setup here for us. And once that's ready, it will ask us what we want to build today. We will use our Open Weather API key to create a weather forecast for Capital City. Okay, so once it's ready, you'll obviously be prompted here with what you want to build today. Let's go ahead and get started. So we want to create a web page with the weather forecast for today and a 7-day forecast for the days ahead for Sydney. Is the Open Weather API key in your environment. So you just simply let it know that this is what you want it to do, and it will go away. And just like usual, the first thing it will do is kind of familiarize itself with its environment and work out a plan for building this web page for you. So you can see here it's found the key and it's sort of starting to put together a bit of a plan for how it's going to go create our weather forecast web page. So in this case, it's going to go create a data pipeline, which is probably the preferred method. So it's going to create a Python script to fetch the weather data, which is, I think, a good way of doing it, separating the fetching of the data from the display of the data. So use cases for this might be, maybe you work on a mine site or anything that has a environment considerations, if you like, and you might want dashboards where, in addition to operational metrics or database information, you may also want some weather information. So this is a way where you can kind of blend both environmental data from a third-party API as well as your own internal data to create a more custom operations dashboard. Okay, so it looks like it's gone and got its weather data. Looks like we're going to get a 7-day forecast that we asked for, and it's just starting to write the chart chunk. So just in a moment here, we should start to see our output. Once we've got the data, we can, of course, ask it to maybe change the API call for maybe a richer data set or a slightly different data set, assuming, of course, the data is available. One trick here is you can copy and paste the link to the documents for the API that StoriBot is consuming. And that may obviously help it to understand the available services at that API. So if your API is a more obscure API, then that's probably a better way to go about it. Like a weather API, where fairly obvious what endpoints might be available, especially for something simple like a 7-day forecast, then it's probably going to be able to work it out, but you can, of course, always just share the docs. So here we go. It's gone and made this weather forecast web page for us. So we've got current weather in Sydney. It's about lunchtime in Sydney right now. Today's high lows, some humidity, pressure data, sunrise and sunset. We've got this lovely kind of 24-hour breakdown. Looks like that's in 3-hour increments, which is probably useful enough. And then, just quite standard kind of 7-day forecast. So we can see, what the weather's looking like. Looks like they've got a bit of rain coming up later in the week for Sydney, and a temperature trend, which is really nice. So that's it. It's as simple as that to ingest an API key, give it to StoriBot, and now you can start bringing real-time weather data into any of your stories. You can, of course, now restyle this. If your preference is not to have these emojis, you can, of course, just ask it to do that. Or you could have been more specific at the beginning. Maybe you wanted it to look like the iOS weather app. Then it can take inputs like that as well. And so that's it. That's how you consume a API, in this case, a weather API, and create a story using data from that API. Thank you.